constituent border patrol agencies are in this particular component. Mr. Speaker, I don't know. Okay, on that note, Mr. Speaker, I want to hold this out that when we come to this stage, I want to advise that there are critical provisions in this bill that should not be tampered with. You know, before I see Mr. Speaker, the very last one, Mr. Speaker.
I now give the floor to the honorable member from Kenya. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. After that, we'll wind up the debate. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to have my voice. Very sensitive bill.
So you should stand up.
But when we talk about security, you need to, first of all, underline the principle. My colleagues, you have to pay attention. So that you will be secure. You have 3 minutes. Thank you very much. You know, I'm one of the international member of ACSS, and 2 others in this way. Honorable Rebecca Kamara and Honorable.
What is ACSS?
I will answer you. Yeah, of course, I have critically or carefully read this bill. I just have few concerns to share and a few corrections. Correction number 1 is going to my colleague who have just ended his debate. He was talking about drugs, and my question there is: have we signed treaty with United Nations Office for Drugs? No. Have we signed treaty with IAEA? So we have to critically look at those things before we talk about drugs. Yeah, and let me come back to the bill properly. When we talk about principles of security, the number 1 principle is the need to know. The need to know. If you don't know anything, you are not secure. I want to know few things in this bill. I want to know who are the chiefdom councillors, because if we take our mind back to the Chieftaincy Act, the councillors in our communities, we have ward councillors. But when we talk about chiefdom councillors, all the TAs, the tribal authorities in that chiefdom are chiefdom councillors. So we are talking about the chiefdom security committee, and we mention 1 chiefdom councillor. We should have said a representative from the chiefdom councillor. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and one of my colleagues over there made mention of membership in the chiefdom. When we talk about membership, I can perfectly remember we passed a bill, a law here, which is the National Disaster Management Agency. And when we are talking about the membership in that bill, we made mention that all MPs in this world should be members of Chiefdom Disaster Management Committee. And you will be surprised, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Very recently, very senior members from that agency, we are arguing that MPs are not part of the Chiefdom Disaster Management Agency. And luckily, the honorable member from Weliti, the leader advisor on that side, was with that act. And we now told them that the MPs are members of disaster management agencies in the Chiefdom. And it is gazetted. But they were denying that. MPs are not members. So in this bill also, we are trying to form the Chiefdom security committees. I advise that MP be part of those Chiefdom committees. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, I advise that whenever they make members of parliament to be members in children committees, they have to honor them. Simply because I'm a victim. As I'm speaking, I have series of reports on disasters that have happened in my constituency since last year to now. No action. I thank you all.
I thank the honourable member. Now give the floor to the leader of the opposition. Here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we heard the Chief Minister who is piloting this bill telling us about the good things that we are to get out of this bill, at least to repeal and replace the 2002 Act, and of course knowing fully well that laws are dynamic, that we change them from time to time based on the circumstances that we are faced with. We have no problem doing this. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, now he mentioned the emphasis on human security, strengthening the role of the ONS, the ISU, TOGU, etc. And of course, how we can achieve something new and to amend the old document that we had, that is in 2002. The chairman of defense was saying that a law that was made in 2002 was archaic. But saying it's archaic might not be the appropriate term to use. But we want to say that as we move on, we keep amending laws based on the circumstances that we are faced with. I am not a lawyer, but the lawyers always tell us that, and we quite agree, because every law or every amendment that is made to a law is based on the time that we are faced with. We quite agree. I heard my colleague from the Eastern just saying that there was a truckload of cocaine intercepted at Lunge some time ago. But just recently, let me draw the attention of this house to news that a vehicle was intercepted in Togo, emanating from Sierra Leone, that was Burkina Faso heading to Ghana or something. But that is not something we will hold the security apparatus here responsible. My concern here is that the bill also talks about a lot of power given to what we call the street level bureaucrats. My problem here is when you give excessive discretion to people performing this function, let them don't use that discretion for purposes that are not meant for what they are supposed to be used for. I think that is where most of the colleagues are expressing apprehension about. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, immediately after the announcement of election results, in my constituency, 24 hours after election results were announced, I lost one of my young fellows in the constituency. He was killed in cold blood by a military officer. I know the name, I'll not mention it here. But if you want to, I will, but I don't want to. I don't want to. Now, why I'm saying this is, these are all the reasons why we are saying, when these street level bureaucrats are given excessive authority, they tend to misuse that authority, that discretion. And that is why, when these laws are made, Let us not only make the laws that are in the book, but let us ensure that these people are actually monitored to ensure that they execute the law as expected or as they are in the books. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, part 4.7, we talk about warrants as sting operations. I think those are the areas where we need to pay attention and ensure that when we come to actually scrutinize this at committee stage, in fact, that is why after my submission, I will move a motion that this bill that is before us, we have no problem with it, but let it be properly scrutinized, or let us refer it to the legislative committee so that a thorough job will be done of scrutinizing it before it comes back to this house for final approval. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, clause 32 here is saying, with your leave, I'll read. Where the Director General has reasonable cause to believe that a warrant is required to enable the agency to perform any of its functions, he shall apply to a judge or magistrate for the issuance of a warrant. Agreed, because that is the right thing to do. But the question there will be, who determines what is to be searched for or what is not to be searched for? Now, those are the things that ought to be fine-tuned, so that my problem is, it is not about the powers given to them, but the fact that that authority is vested in certain individuals, we have to safeguard against the misuse of that authority or that discretion, because maybe the judge might issue the warrant, but it might not be used judiciously. Those are the things we have to guard against, because we know that the military, the police, have been ordered to carry out certain functions, but when they go, what they do in the street are different from what they are asked to do. So we need to make sure that we maintain that balance. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it also talks about the authority to arrest is sting operation. I'm sure the authority to arrest is vested in the police. And the police is supposed to be a force for good. And if it's a force for good, let the area of arrest be limited to the police. And when it is being executed, let them be sure that when people are arrested, they are arrested for reasons that are supposed to be justified, but not to arrest just because they need to arrest. My colleague from my 91 was pointing to the fact that certain people lost their lives and nothing has been done. No closure has been brought to this. We know the incident of Makeni. People were killed in Makeni. In Tonko Limba, 91, Loza, Tombo, Pademba Road, Konapi. Somebody was killing. Now, what we are saying here is, it is not because.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. Mr. Speaker, my colleague mentioned Konapi. I want him to give up because I'm from that area. To tell us the incident happened in that. Because as far as I'm concerned, some incident has happened in that. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure this is not the first time I've mentioned that, because it was reported that that's why I say somebody was, not people were. There's a difference between somebody was and people were. And when I talk about people were, let me finish.
So you are talking about my district. I'm from there. I need to know, because such that never happened in Mr. Speaker. Let's also come here and start making a statement that are not facts.
Allow the majority.
Okay. If my colleague, my opposite number is not saying it didn't happen because I don't have the document with me here, I will say that I will not mention Gondapi. But in the same way, you will not deny the killings at Pademba Road, the killings at Makeni, the one in my 91, the one in Togoliba, the one in Magoroka, etc. So, what I'm trying to say here is there have been killings and no closure, no comment has been made about those killings. So what we are trying to say here is that we must try to ensure that institutions of state that are responsible for such action must be held liable for those actions. To say that in the execution of their duty, they cannot be held liable is giving them a blank check, and that is what we have to guard against. Because people must not be using the offices that are given to them by the state to commit serious crime against other people, because those people also belong to families, and when families get hurt, definitely they feel aggrieved. So what I'm saying here is we are not against this apparatus or trying to strengthen the security apparatus, but let us ensure that when people exercise their function, they do it judiciously and not to harm other people. To this day, as we speak, the family of those affected Makeni, Magoroka, my 91, Togoliba, etc., they are still agreeing. Nobody has ever spoken to them or to bring closure to those issues. Now, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, what we are saying here is we agree that the institution must be strengthened, that CISU, etc., and all the other ones, whatever I call them, they must all be given, must be strengthened, and the issue of drugs, like we said, all of that must be done. But again, Mr. Speaker, let me not forget to remind you that as we speak, there are people incarcerated from Kono. 5 people, they are incarcerated from Kono, and to this day, we don't know whether they have been tried or not, but they are detained at the maximum prison. So for whatever it is, I don't know whether, because we know that if somebody commits a crime, take him to the court, try them, let us know whether they are guilty or not. Because if you hold somebody in detention, it is assumed that that individual is innocent until proven guilty. We don't know why they were there, but they are there. That's what I know. That's what I know.
Allow the majority to finish. Mr. Speaker, we are before the nation. I'm sure if we are not live, then it will be transmitted live after the proceedings. For us as lawmakers to be making statements, assertive statements that we don't have evidence to, I think it's unfair to us on this side and to the nation. To say, I don't know, my colleague on the other side said, I don't know if they have been tried, I don't know if they have been this. You cannot just say people from Kona are incarcerated 4 or 5, and up now you don't know. You should have known before you made a statement. That is very exciting.
You don't, I mean, are you done? No, if you don't, okay,
I will come back.
Okay.
Because you need to have the facts with you, okay, before you make statements.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Mr. Speaker, honorable member.
In any case,
I am saying,
Mr. Speaker.
I am saying, I'm talking to Mr. Speaker, and you have a point of order. I respected that. Allow his space to finish. Mr. Speaker, I am saying 5 people have been incarcerated from Kono. They are still detained. They are still detained. That's what I know. And the minority group there cannot deny that. But Mr. Speaker,
please, Mr. Speaker, 34, point of. Honorable member, Mr. Speaker, you have to intervene in some of those things. Mr. Speaker, it's not just enough to say people are being incarcerated, except if you are not living under the rule of law in this country. I cannot go and break, for example, or I go and murder somebody. I'm arrested, and somebody stands in the way to say people are incarcerated. What do they do in the first place? Mr. Speaker, what you are agitating here is a security bill, which includes all of those things. So are we saying that people should not be arrested if they do wrong? Come on, Mr. Speaker, those people are incarcerated for more than 3 years. Is that something we should come and amplify? Let him tell us why they are incarcerated. You don't just say they are incarcerated. What did they do?
Mr. Speaker, I am still saying that we need to treat the institution, but let us ensure that when people are carrying out state functions, they must do so judiciously and must be very, very careful so that other people do not get affected in the execution of their duty in the name of working for the state.
What you say now is totally different. That's a general statement of policy, which is correct. But the assertion you made before that one has to be substantiated.
Okay. That people are incarcerated.
Yes. Yeah. And you've been challenged by your opposite number. And you have no substantiation to make.
To make about that people are incarcerated. Mr. Speaker, when I get
SO 3211, we should be reminded of SO 3211. That matter is in court. We should be reminded of SO 3211. Thank you very much.
And added to that, Mr. Speaker, we just informed by the Deputy Attorney General that the matter will be coming up today. That's more than 3 years. That's what I'm saying.
Mr. Speaker,
I don't know about 3211, but I know about 32.6.
Mr. Speaker, at least, I have been intimated that the matter is in court. Meaning, the arrest you are made.
Honest. You know, sometimes,
Okay.
sometimes I keep quiet, taking into account, the seniority of certain members of parliament. If you're a senior member of parliament, I expect you to have mastered the standing orders to an extent that you'll be guided by them without, Mr. Speaker interjecting you all the time. But I'm sure the honorable member is perfectly aware of 32.6. And yet you're making this kind of statements in the world, taking advantage of the privilege that, such statements cannot be questioned. But they have to be factual. Okay. They have to be factual.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And having said that, I will, like I said earlier, move that this bill be committed to the legislative committee.
No problem.
For better scrutiny.
We're heading for that. So I'll take your seat now.
Thank you.
Acting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to thank my colleague, honorable members who have contributed to this debate. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this bill is long overdue. In our own session, Mr. Speaker, this bill was brought to this parliament, but it was marred with controversies. Today, thankfully, the Chief Minister has decided to do immediately. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me react to some of the issues raised. For instance, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member from Tonkolili said was concerned about the representation of the internal representation of prisons and fire force into the council. I want to allay his fear to tell him that the Minister of Internal Affairs is part of the council, which means prisons department and fire force department is represented. Of course, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is very, very clear that CISU, which the bill is proposing to now, the CISU, which this bill is proposing to be CISA, will be controlled by the council, Mr. Speaker. If you read the bill, you will see clearly the function of the council, and the council will be there to direct the operations of CISA. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the member of all was also talking about the trans-organized crime. Mr. Speaker, if you go to section 5, subsection 1 of the 2002 Act, it is clear that the council can form committees. And before now, they have used that discretion to form the trans-organized crime, which with the trans-organized crime, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, is an interministerial committee that deals with drug trafficking, money laundering, human trafficking, etc. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, what simply the bill has done is to legalize, to make it very legal. And now it's not a committee that has been formed, by the council, but it is now enshrined in the new bill. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this is a fine bill. The instant law that we are using, Mr. Speaker, honorable member, was done in 2002. And because of the time, a lot of institutions have been created, and because of time, emergencies have occurred. And again, we believe what the Chief Minister has done is to bring a bill taking into cognizance the current situation in terms of security, and a bill that will stand the test of time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we now have additional membership to the council. Mr. Speaker, in 2002, some ministries were not factored in the council, and these ministries are very pivotal in the security sector of this nation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is now proposed that the council meets at a quarterly period. Before now, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the instant law says the council shall meet on a monthly basis. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, if now the council meets on a quarterly basis, it will give time for operations to be executed, and thereafter a report being made to these councils. So this has been corrected, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, we now notice also that we have more people, more agencies have been created to help in the security matters. These agencies have been factored in the PROSEC at the DISEC level. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it's now very clear that the resident minister will be chairing the PROSEC at the PROSEC level, and when we go to the DISEC level, a very senior officer rather than the district officer will now be chairing. Even the reporting pattern has now been directed by this bill. Before now, it was disjointed whom the PROSEC or DISEC should be reporting to. But today, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it's now very clear, it has been made very, very clear that the PROSEC and DISEC, their reporting pattern. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, now we have CISU, which used to be a unit, being transformed to CISA. Mr. Speaker, I believe if we now have Central Intelligence Unit Agency, The Director General and Deputy Director General shall be approved by this Parliament. They should be approved by this Parliament. It is enshrined what they have recommended to us is that the President appoints simple. Now we are saying because it's an agency of government, the appointment of the DG should be verified by the people's representative, and the deputy also should come to this Parliament. Because in the absence of the Director General, the deputy sits in as acting Director General or Director General. So we need to help His Excellency the President by approving who holds those offices. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, of course, we have the NS Court also appointed by the President, subject to the approval of this Parliament. I'm still of the strong conviction, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that his or her deputy, should also be approved, because in the absence of the NS Court, the deputy sits. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I'm very pleased for the creation of the Chiefdom Security Council. The Chiefdom Security Council, these are the areas where crimes are committed, and when you involve stakeholders to be sitting and determining how the security is being managed within their chiefdoms, I think that will also help the entire security structure in this country. But as has been said by one of our colleagues, Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, especially at chiefdom levels, should be part of these councils, especially at chiefdom levels, so that we can give our own input and we can bring the issues that comes within those meetings to this Parliament and to the notice of the So we should be part of these councils as representatives of the people. And don't forget, we are not just representatives of the people, we are a very strong stakeholder in our constituencies. So at our chiefdom levels, we should, as members of Parliament, be part of those institutions. Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the honorable member from Magoroka, of course, he has been corrected using the SO 32(6) that the matters within the court should not be deliberated upon in this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the acting leader who sums up the debates for the opposition tried to bench us into 32 of this bill. And Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is very, very clear that all warrants are approved by either magistrate or judge. And when you apply for these warrants, you have to give reasons and convince either the magistrate or the judge why this warrant should be approved. To 32 of this bill. And this warrant should be approved. That their judgment is for a national cause rather for a sinister reasons. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I believe when we go to committee stage, we'll be able to correct and make this bill as useful as it should be, and we should be able to correct, to dot the T's, to dot the I's and cross the T's, so that this bill will stand the test of time once it becomes law. Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank all members who have spoken on this bill. I now invite the Chief Minister to respond to all, or at least most of the issues raised, and then move again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, thank you very much for your brilliant presentation. Just to emphasize, it's about 20 years when we had the Act in 2002, and 20 years after, the landscape has changed. Mr. Speaker, while I recognize the need for legitimizing structures at this level, I also want to note that the executive has the right and the authority to create structures for operational reasons. So the establishment of CHISED, Children's Security Committee, was an executive decision and very legal for operational reasons. And it should be praised because it was an attempt to decentralize security decision-making process. What was created in the previous act stops at the district level, realizing the challenges of getting to Gema, getting to Sikonia, getting to Tongolimba. There was an absolute need to create the children structure, and that falls within the powers of this executive arm of government. There are several committees I chair that are not before the year. For policy-making processes, committees can be created and for operational reasons. It's in no way meant to undermine the authority of Parliament. But bringing them now in an act is to strengthen it and give more robust power, just legitimizing it. So I'm firmly convinced, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that the architecture we created is appropriate, is not legal, and there's no question to answer. Mr. Speaker, while I also note the importance of parliamentarians to be included in structures, I understand the importance of parliamentarians. I want to caution, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that we do not undermine separation of powers. Executive structures created are for executive decision-making processes, not for parliamentary decision-making processes. The question is, who provides the oversight when they are part of those structures? Somebody has to provide, and somebody should be there to ask the correct questions. So she said, for children's security committees are executive structures, and the oversight is provided by parliamentarians. That is the complete separation of power. Because the parliamentarians are so important, at best we can go get them on those committees as observers, we're not as members. What about from that, Mr. Speaker? These committees, as frequently as possible, they don't need to cover the case. While they are sitting here, they are meeting in Shibina, as I speak to you. They are meeting in Commonwealth. They are meeting in Afro. They are meeting in Samabiru. They are meeting everywhere where they are sitting here. So on practical grounds, the inclusion of parliamentarians of those committees is just for.
They have not increased.
But what we are saying, no, the committees are already there. They are working as operational structures, as I speak to you. Then when they are legitimized, for it to be included, it's just for the purpose of theory. But in practical terms, they are not functional. But let me say, the most substantive thing is, Mr. Speaker, remember, is for us to have a structure of Parliament to continue the oversight over these committees. You need people to ask the right questions. But if you are part of those committees, who's going to ask the questions now? Mr. Speaker, in terms of relationships, the word agency does not connote a body company, let's sign it. But let's say for body company, members, the National Security Council is like a board. So both the ONS and the CISO now, and CISA to be, are supervised by NSC, the National Security Council, and the President heads that council, and he does the appointment here. So to have another robust structure, only has to be, which you have been questioning here. Already, there's no additional financial implication by changing CISO to CISA. When they already, the Nigeria is vote controller, he already has his own goal. So reference to PFM Act is really not very relevant as of now because there is no additional cost by changing that name. It's just to make sure that a unit integrated an agency which already has a de facto board in the name of the National Security Committee. Mr. Speaker, while it was really outside the context of these discussions, but let me just make an appeal because I piloted it here and it's important. There was a reference made on harmonization of salaries here and there. I will just urge that the Wages and Compensation Commission before this House be dealt with as quickly as possible. You don't have an appeal, Mr. Speaker. I will definitely support the inclusion of women and youth. That might have been an oversight. And definitely irrelevant. Mr. Speaker, let me just also emphasize the fear of the operation. I think there's adequate law already existing that grants this government power to hold detractors and troublemakers. We don't need additional laws to exercise the power of the state. We absolutely don't need that. When you break the law will take its course. So we don't really need additional powers. So its omission of this from this book does not really undermine the government authority to effect arrest. There are additional laws like the Police Act that grants the police the authority to do what we want to do. Whatever. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, again, the issue of subjective appointment to parliamentary ratification, I don't think it's anything over the line. There's no, I really do not have an objection to that. If parliamentarians consider it necessary, so be it. Mr. Speaker, I will say that I want to assure this House that this bill is basically a government architecture for security operations. It's not the content of security matters. It's just to define the structure so that the structures work. To give them the right so that when they exercise their authority, they are within the ambit of the law. And in any way, Mr. Speaker, we do not intend to use this bill to quasi operation. We have sufficient powers under the law if we want to do that as of now. Thank you.
You kindly now move.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled the National Security and Central Intelligence Act 2022 be read the second time.
Yes, sir.
What's your point of order?
On the statement of the minister, to say he has already enough power, they have already enough power to.
There are sufficient powers under the law.
To muscle your position.
Not to muscle. No, not to muscle.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. Mr. Speaker, I am on honorable member, please. For the sake.
It was clear, Mr.
No, that was not clear. It was clear to you.
Statement to us is unfortunate.
He did not say so.
So we have sufficient powers.
What the minister,
It shouldn't be like
I
that.
am on my legs. What the minister was trying to say, and I think it's clear to all of us, that there are enough laws in the state to make sure that the government will use the peace.
Maybe you are making it.
Someone is saying
But his statement made already is unfortunate. I'm not supporting every statement from the minister. So they have already know what's going to handle the no, we cannot say that.
Honorable member. Hold on. The deputy speaker stood up on the point of order. He had barely finished. When you want to come up again with another point of order.
Mr. Speaker,
I was here, I heard the Chief Minister very clearly. I'm not hard of hearing. And what I want to say to you, honorable member, your understanding of what you heard was a mishearing. But I heard differently, and the answer will show exactly what the minister said.
What I want to say to you, sir, the language was very clear, simple.
You misheard the minister. Mr. Speaker, you misheard the minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm now going to put the question.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the ruling. But I was sitting there, we had...
Honorable members, the question is...
Speaker, please.
If it means they'll arrest you.
I don't want to just give you... No, I was sitting right at the back. Yes, you can testify. I was sitting right there. I was observing and I had a minister clearly. He's a very responsible person. You are working in so many departments. Can you bring the defendants there when I start to speak? Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving the floor. I was there, I heard it very clear. Your colleagues at the back can testify that I was at the back. Your colleagues at the back can testify that I was there. And I don't need to prove to you if I was there or not. Let me make it very clear, and abundantly clear, that the minister we have in front of us is a very responsible minister who has served in so many capacities. We, as members of parliament, we should be very attentive and look at the way we behave ourselves and listen to discussions in the house. Mr. Minister said, if you don't mind, I repeat his exact words. We have sufficient power under the law if you want to move to your position. Mr.
As far as I'm concerned, I have made a ruling.
Mr. Speaker,
I will not encourage any further discussion on this matter.
not on this.
I'm going to put the question. You can now rise afterwards.
You can go ahead.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled the National Security and Central Intelligence Act 2022 be read the second time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Jesus.
Eyes have it.
The bill entitled the National Security and Central Intelligence Act 2022 being an act to repeal and replace the National Security and Central Intelligence Act 2002, Act number 10 of 2002 to provide for the internal and external security of Sierra Leone and to provide for unrelated matters has been read the second time.
Any announcements? Any announcements? There is a meeting, I have one. There is a meeting of the PSC within the next 30 minutes. A meeting of the PSC within the next 30 minutes. That takes place. I will say 3 o'clock or quarter past. Quarter past. With that, the House stands adjourned to tomorrow. Before, please,
Mr. Leader. You want to deal with sound committee of the roll out. No, let the meeting committee of the roll out. Yes, you have so many issues at the committee. We want to deal with the committee of the roll out. No. I want to deal with it here. No man. Yeah.
We stand adjourned to tomorrow, the 20th. 10 a.m. We were extremely optimistic that we would honorable members, we were optimistic at the beginning that we are going to deal with.
Speaker, can we see please? If you have to address us. Can we see please?
Tomorrow's sitting is going to be devoted entirely to the public elections. With that, we stand adjourned to tomorrow, the 20th at 10 a.m.
Nobody's going to arrest my brother and Daniel Kroma.